workshops.
What did we miss?
Sorry, I was having mic issues.
On Friday? Anything specific was talked about?
Yeah, on Friday, there was a focus more on general governance. Yeah, we had a call, but unfortunately we didn't get to record it. And but several recommendations were gathered. So yeah, today maybe we come across them as we look at it. But as I noticed over the weekend, there was also async submissions happening. So we had some time. We may need to also strategize how do we start to prioritize them.
And then
it was
also,
a great call. And in the Sunday also, I was in the SPO meeting, and there we actually looked at few SPO recommendations. So that was also good.
Is there a link where we can, find the documents and stuff from the past meetings?
I think the GitHub is the best one, and then the Miro board, for example, if go back to this. This is
by the way,
where we
Ryan,
collected the milestone 3 information.
Great, thank you.
by the way, Jack and who else? Utah, Ryan, a bunch of guys on the Cardano 360. Drep concentration. Good job, good job. And we got shilled quite a lot as well. So that's cool. Jack mentioned it several times, and yeah, people are eager to see the report.
Yeah, I wonder
Hi,
when
Jen.
will the report come up? And yeah, hello, Jen.
Thanks for joining. So I'm not the only woman in here.
She mentioned she will be more quiet at the first 30 minutes or so. She may be able to tune in chat. Well, we're kind of 5 minutes in. I did wonder how Jose and Ryan is doing, how last few week has passed and what's happening in your governance area, maybe in a wrap of 2 minutes. And then I would go into sharing the screen and application, and we dive into recommendations and that stuff. So if you have something to share, feel free to open up.
Not really not that much to share. Just I'm kind of joining the conversation today. Trying to catch up on where the conversation is, and if I have something valuable, maybe eventually try to chip in. Happy to be here.
Cool. And Ryan, you want to share something, or we jump straight into activity?
Yeah, I have a handful of SIPs. I was just going to post them in chat. I mean, if you want, I could talk through them, what they are. They're, I think, all pretty intuitive.
Okay,
Sure.
so you have an idea of recommendations you want to step into?
Sure, I've just been working on them, just pushing them through the SIP process and trying to put together a vote. Actually, I guess the vote itself is another thing I should share.
Okay, I will then share screen, go over the application and share how that would be best shared through the application itself, so that it's equally across the rest of the recommendations that are done. And how to prioritize that, so that if we do deep dive in this call today, we know how to elevate that recommendation.
Sure. You want me to share screen and just talk through them?
I mean, I will share the application first, and then we show where to put this.
Yeah, I don't have an application that I'm working on. They're all SIPs to just change things in Cardano, like in the ledger.
Yeah, I understand. So what I'm sharing you right now is the application where we are collecting recommendations.
Oh, I see.
Workshop. So we used to do it on Motherboard. We do have a Motherboard in the backup, but we thought okay, let's have constructive, structured discussion and already help us pull tools that help us get to this more nuanced discussions in how we prioritize recommendations and where we should put focus on.
Gotcha.
And on the chat, I linked to that application too. Last week, we basically spent more time in looking at the recommendations. So, or like coming up with recommendations, where here I would like to focus a bit on what's already here and see how they are looking like, and then look at what's missing and add that like understanding of how can we asynchronously like improve our proposals and recommendations. In general, hello also Steve Lockhart and James again joining in. Steve, I don't know how much have you like followed up with what Beyond MVG is doing. It basically got funded through the Cardano Treasury, and then and hello Sebastian, you opened your mic now. And we are basically working on building like a dashboard of metrics that are on-chain metrics and how like they affect the governance. We have done now a bit of like observations and insights, like what we saw from the metrics themselves. Actually, I have the Marboard open. And then after like observations, there was like a step of analysis where we analyzed like what are the insights, what the people said, and then we had even the open call to capture even more like insights from the workshops themselves. And throughout this kind of period, I still don't know if the milestone 3 is out, but basically there is a version of like the accumulation of all the insights and the most relevant information. And now for this final milestone, we're like looking at what recommendations we can apply to all of these like problems and challenges we brought up. There is now a list of challenges. Okay, let's round up, which is now in this page called challenges, which are basically going through like the highest like priorities that came up that we should like address. For example, here is more stake remains dormant and engaged in voting, leaving open the possibility of significant changes in power dynamics in the future of unexpected voting swings. Then there's like different categories for them. And so now we come to the like last week where we jumped into looking at these challenges and coming up with what some kind of recommendations and discussions about them. So this is where Ryan, you maybe want to jump in, where you can post in like add recommendations there. You can browse challenges, assign any kind of like existing challenges, and it does, even if your recommendation doesn't address any existing challenges, like direct voting power is concentrating, it's fine to still recommend. You put your recommendations, and you mentioned already SIPs and all of that information that could be pasted as links in the like the additional section. And today, if we not if, but let's play around with this kind of prioritization page. I'm gonna directly link to that, where you will see a list of all these recommendations that are done. And with this kind of like Reddit ranking style method, we have like upvote options to do we want to have discussion about it, do we want to deep dive in it or not. And we actually spend our rest of the work group basically looking at these, what do we think as collectively in this call we think are the most pressing recommendations we should dive into and put focus on and make sure they are addressed in Cardano. Any questions? I kind of shared 5-minute monologue here, so Mark joining in, Iomi. Okay, if there is no questions, then let's start with the first initial kind of go, where we open this out, sharing the link again for the new joiners, and to the prioritization page. And let's take like 5 minutes to simply skim the website, see what titles or recommendations kind of look great for you. You can, for now, hide scores. They are all default scores, so it doesn't really affect us at the moment. And you will be able to see what they write as recommendations. Some do put more information. So yeah, some are quick, some are a bit longer ones. And then let's upvote, download them and see what the state is at the end. And yeah, you may have to, like, if the login stuff happens, then on this up side right corner, right corner, you will be able to join as travel account, even if you don't want to use like Google or Wallet. And yes, pre-production should also work. Talk to James. Okay, I'm gonna also do some reading, getting catch up. We have a sort option newest, so let's see what was added while I was not paying attention. I stop sharing for now and pick it up in 3 minutes. Really?
Just a quick check-in if everyone knows what we're doing. I saw someone just join. Tevo, maybe you want to tell him what we're doing, or them what we're doing. I'm gonna assume here.
Yeah, I think we have to now go into the next step. And I do wonder, I see on the platform held that there was 7 votes, but I know, of course, it wasn't like that just meeting that we had or previously. And right now, if I refresh it, I'm not sure if others also have downloaded or uploaded. Okay, so something is moving around here. But considering how many people we have in this call, it's not that much. But let's use what we have. There are 2 votes for the Drep incentives. And let's dive into what is this one item. And I prepared also like guiding questions, and we can just like open the floor on this one. We read through it again and see like how valuable is this recommendation for Cardano. Drep incentives. Applied research and development related to incentive models to steer more qualified participation. Not merely a participation, but qualified meaning, more rationales, more detailed reviews, and less votes missed. There are different initiatives being developed by the community to tackle this. So in my view, creating a working group to coordinate and fund applied research and development of models is important. The final product can be a CIP for off-chain models and tackles different evidences, compensation stuff. Half of votes contain rationale, so improving the amount of rationales you get. Proposals are complex to analyze, de-reporting power concentrating. So on this already initial, Simon, open up what's like initial takes. We can go around, take like 4 minutes, and then we will look at each dimension separately if we want to like go deeper into this topic itself. And Simon, let's start with you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's a perfect topic because as a civics committee member, I started a working group on this, and we meet tomorrow at 11 UTC. So if you're interested to work on that, especially if you're already working on that, it would be great to have you there. Or if you know someone who's already working there, maybe you can shoot them a quick message. It'd be great to, consolidate efforts and not do double work on every end, on everyone who wants to work on that, and brainstorm together.
Right. Well, I feel this is definitely a core thing to governance, right? So it's not that we don't have an incentive framework at the moment. Having no incentives is a framework. It's just that the one that we are having by default, and because we haven't been able to get together and come up with something better, but we currently do have a framework, and we are seeing the results in power concentration of DREPs. So it's definitely something that I think is urgent to kind of shift the tendencies that we are seeing, worrying tendencies that we're seeing in governance in Cardano. I'm not familiar with the model that Rodrigo is proposing here specifically. I do know that there are a few initiatives around this. And as Simon was just saying, the important thing is to get together and get something out there different from what we have, and then iterate from there. It shouldn't be hard to do. I know there's a lot of voices, but it shouldn't be hard to do. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just need to be better than what we have.
Yeah. I opened up an assessment. So each recommendation has assessment, and they kind of recognize that you even say that this is a must that we need to focus on. And you're right. What here I think would be very beneficial if all of these different initiatives that are having applied research and are doing these little experiments of stuff could be like aggregated here, so we can amplify it through the state of governance report. And yeah, Ryan, what's your initial take on it?
Sorry, I'm writing out the recommendation for it now, but the idea is basically to do a pilot program based on the paper I wrote. Do I have it? Yeah, I'll link it there. To do a 100K ADA treasury withdrawal budget pilot program, and basically where you exclude the top 10 DREPs and pay the next 100 DREPs 10 ADA per proposal that they vote on. And you're measuring, this is a pilot program, so it's a very small amount of ADA. It's only 100K ADA to do the pilot program. And you're measuring to see if it increases decentralization. So does it help voting power concentration? And then second, you're seeing if it increases participation. And if any of those things increase, then it works. And then we can improve it from there. Or if it doesn't work, then we can decline it and try something different.
Very nice. Okay, so I added that link to also into the comments, and I'm going to open up now assessment, and I'm going to try to, so I tried to come up with, I wrote like 2 white papers to this agent, and like, okay, how could we get like a good discussion out of recommendation to make sure this is like assessed and everybody kind of able to cover different areas. So it came up with 5 positive and 5 negative questions. So let's play around, see what it does, and like go through discussions, go a bit of like roundtable, see if like in 5-10 minutes we came to some kind of like holistic understanding of this recommendation. So the first question, and if everybody can do their own, so that will be basically aggregating scores. But yeah, we don't have to if you don't like to play like the numbers game. But essentially, how many people or processes are affected? So in this kind of incentive model, does anybody want to kind of like open up or like put up their hands and in a row, and we just go around and ask questions and see where everybody collectively lands on this? If I will start in that, I would ideate that it doesn't really affect that many people, considering most of like the ADA holders are more like just like a passive stakeholders. However, it is like very beneficial, of course, to the like entire community to make this a lively blockchain and useful for like future generation to even adopt this. So I think like the impact is like quite high, but yeah, the fact it has like a 2-dimension. So I will say like 4 in this case, because yeah, who are those people who are going to be affected? Are those who have trained education of doing workshops, research documents, and now also this new age of where we are able to inference like AI. But most of, I don't know, like how many Cardano holders are even into Cardano because we are financing these things. Because all of these incentives probably will come from Treasury, like it, unless we are able to do some kind of business model with universities, but they have business with like regional grant funds and like Horizons and these European funds. So it's hard to kind of penetrate that market, in my opinion, to justify like for the current stakeholders to have like a huge impact. So yeah, this is kind of my thinking here. Does anybody also want to try to share their thoughts on how much impact this recommendation can have?
Well, so just to put it a little bit in context, and according to, let's say, the research that we have done in MVG, we use reference from the OCC. They are observers. One of when they are doing an observation on governance elections in a nation, they first do they assess how much spending, how well funded governance is on a high level. And the reason for them doing that is because if a governance model is not funded, is not fair and equal for everyone to participate, and it's also not sustainable because it is only our governance available for those of the few. So a DREP compensation, that's, I will say that perhaps is 1/3 of the funding. We also need the funding of CC members and SPOs as well. And I also seen several proposals. The latest one now that I have looked into is also to set up a stake pool, a fully separated stake pool, and have that to fund both CC, TREPs, and SPOs, if I'm not mistaken. It was Yuda, DREP, who came up with that idea. So to have, in my eyes, to have a sustainable governance model, it must be funded. Underfunded governance model don't have any legitimacy. And it's not only by my opinion, but also the OCC report.
We will think you drop that as a comment. Now, let's see. But in terms of, is there a deadline or time pressure to have these TREP incentives? Next on my list. Oh, Jose, you jumped in. How would you answer that?
I just wanted to go a little bit back on what Ken Eric said about having a funded program. And one major concern that I have about TREP and CC compensation is that they are in a different layer than SPO compensation, right? So SPO compensation is at the ledger level. So the protocol pays. Here we need to go and ask for funds and then have a model and then evolve it and such and such. So it depends on not many other steps. So ideally, the model that we come up with will be able to work at the protocol level as well. So it doesn't depend on politics once it is in place. And
I sincerely
go-to initiative. Maybe we want to play around a little bit, but we need to have that clarity since the beginning that we ultimately, that's a goal, I think.
Absolutely. That is the goal. And I have been talking with those doing all the Haskell coding and Aiken programming and yada yada. And it's a very, very long road bringing CC compensation and DREP compensation, let's say, fully on chain. Even though if it was, so we had like this idea also that you can take a cut from the deposit. So every proposal is like maintain 100K deposit, and then out of that you, let's say, for example, just withdraw 30,000 ADA and distribute it as a compensation model. And you could use a similar model as VRF, that where you have like kind of a DREP lottery to get like a good chunk. But yeah. But ledger wise, that's gonna take a long time. I heard 3 years from, let's say, research to development, MVP, nifty along testing and looking for exploit and game theory and all that stuff, and eventually a hard fork, perhaps. At 3 years, that was like just fair guessing from technical know-how people.
I'm not concerned that it takes that long. It's just as we don't because it takes so long. We need not to get our eyes off the ball on that one.
Yeah. And so Tebo asked about urgency. Here is my point of view. So we have a lot of research on something called stake bleeding attack on the consensus mechanism on Ouroboros. It basically is it works like this, that you have over a long period of time, you have stake pools who are collaborating and attracting more ADA, more ADA delegation. This is why we had the K parameter engaged. And unfortunately, we don't have a K parameter for governance on DREP and SBOs. What the attack vector, if you're going to put it, is a long-term attack vector similar to stake bleeding. And that is, you have DREP and SBOs acquiring treasury withdrawals and gaining more and more and more and more voting powers. And that is, from my assessment, when we have such, as you see in the visuals, we have such a high Nakamoto coefficient. Yeah, you can see it here. It means it's a very little amount of DREPs that needs to generate a new treasury withdrawal, And for each treasury withdrawal, this is just, so at this point, when we have a Gini coefficient that is not so well distributed, that is like a plausible attack vector. So I think any form of DREP compensation, either it's a smart contract or even though you had intersect, I know we want to have it on the ledger. And I also I really, really appreciate the value of decentralization, all that stuff. But the thing is, you come to a point where is literally no point of return. That goes with stake bleeding attack oil. And at a certain point, now we have good actors in the ecosystem, but we haven't built for bad actors. Governance model.
Yeah, I think that is the key factor. I think we are already past the point of no return. The only difference is that we are in the hands of good actors. So there's a way back. But with those numbers, there wouldn't be any way back. So we need to prepare for when the good guys are no longer around, which will inevitably happen.
Yeah, and for the record, so I'm not fudding governance on Cardano. I love governance on Cardano, but I also I want to highlight that, like from a report perspective, how vulnerable we are, let's say, in the first year. And it's not only governance for us also. You can look at the track records on DAOs, which basically had the same type of vulnerabilities. You have the big entities, whales, rocking the boat and doing the things, and then voter participation goes down. And then you see the value of the token goes down, and participation, and literally you see so many DAOs have literally died just because of a simple thing as that you acquire a large amount of tokens on the airdrops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I put this critique in passion, and
So you would say is the urgency 9 or 10?
it is a 10 urgency. It's actually very, very urgent.
Going to feasibility, can this be built with existing tools? I think here we have all the skills and tools. It's just a coordination issue.
So we don't have the on ledger tools. We don't have that. So on ledger, it is not feasible to do now. But we have, let's say, a bootstrapping mechanism. We can have intersect distribute funds. We have smart contract compatibilities. We can do stuff that on the Cardano we can put up. Let's saturate a stake pool with 75 million ADA. That's mathematically basically the optimal stake pool saturation. that will generate XYZ ADA each epoch, and you can distribute that. So
think in terms of feasibility, it's not just do we have all the tools, but also it says it in the bottom too. Is it high or low effort? I believe it's pretty high effort, even though we have all the tools.
yeah, on Ledger, that's a high effort.
Okay, so what? So feasibility is high, but we mentioned.
Well, I would say feasibility is pretty low because it's such high effort.
Steve. And while you are at it, can you also try to address the cost estimate? What resources would be needed in order to lift this up as a completion?
Yeah, I wouldn't feel qualified to address how much money should or is enough, should be or is enough. I think, I mean, I know, or I'm aware of most of you all, and I've interacted with, I don't know, I guess the majority of people in here over 6 years. And I don't have time to do what I used to do in the Cardano community. I spend about 30 minutes to an hour each day looking through what's going on in the Cardano community on X and going to my favorite Discord servers. But it's considerably less time on the Discord servers because that's an overwhelming amount of information. And I agree with Ken Eric's feeling that this is kind of an urgent thing. But I just have to stress to you all that somebody like myself, who knows you all and knows many other people in the community, but does not have the time. I just don't have the time to sit in the X spaces. And I certainly don't have the time I wish I had to read the volumes of material that are put out by this group and many other groups inside of the governance efforts. And I don't know how it will happen, but I believe it is inevitable and extremely necessary for some collaboration to occur where it's easy for even someone like myself to just get an overview of where these efforts are occurring and how collaboration is happening, because it is just way too much information to take in with for a regular person. And I don't consider myself a regular person, like I said, I've put 6 years into this ecosystem and know you guys, and I can't keep up with it. And, I unfortunately lean on the perception that I have that right now governance is mostly being driven by good actors. And the criticisms that they have to endure just in the act of being good actors and being involved, is unholy. I feel I have a lot of empathy for just the pure bullshit that people have to listen to, because of the naysayers and the always finger pointing other members of the community, because they're out there, and I find it very tiresome. At the same time, I think, everybody should be able to deal with this kind of criticism and have a way to respond. But that's really all I have to say is that, just you who are active in these efforts, which I applaud and emotionally support you. It's an incredible burden to sit here and think I need to keep up because I see no way possible. And I just, I think that all of these efforts should be continued, and I agree with Ken Eric that this is urgent. But in the back of your minds, I really want to encourage everybody to think about ways to make it possible to have an overview that's easily digestible. And I have no idea how that can be done, but I just feel like it's very necessary. So thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you for speaking up. Simon, do you want to share your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I agree with that. I think it needs a professional effort, not just a bunch of community members coming together and, kind of figuring it out. And that's why I think the cost estimate is, maybe not super expensive, but on the higher side.
Eight.
Although you could say it's super expensive too, because once it's implemented, it's gonna need some money in the long run as well, right? So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think the maintainability is gonna be the tone, or how the people say, because yes, once we get it up and there is anything successful, we probably want to repeat that, but then we have also maybe a competition of who is gonna take and assess, and the arguing about the operations and administration is gonna be another layer. So I think that may become quite hard. And if you look at how states are doing, they're all in debt. So yeah, that's a challenge that humanity hasn't solved, in my opinion. Ryan.
I was just going to mention that the bottom of that paper, I did some charts that measure the difference between different types of incentive models and how effective they are with different size budgets. And there are some models that are actually quite cheap. You just have to decide what you're measuring and then incentivize just those things with the minimum amount necessary. And you can get measurable effects with as much as 1,000 ADA per proposal. If you do 100 proposals, that's 100K ADA for the budget for a whole year. And that's using the middle out method there. But there's other ones, like if you're going to reward proportionally based on voting power, in order for that to be effective, you have to reward a lot more ADA. It's going to be a lot more expensive to the Treasury. So there's different ways of getting value out of your ADA to stretch it out farther, that it doesn't have to be expensive to do incentives or compensation, I mean.
What does this chart tell us?
So that chart is using a super tiny amount of budget. That is giving 100 DREPs, a total of 100 ADA. So that's 1 ADA per DREP every time they vote on a proposal. So you can see it's very spread out. It's because there's not very strong incentives. 1 ADA is not going to do much. That's why it's that heat map is kind of all over the place. But if you scroll down to the next one, that one is giving every DREP 10 ADA. And suddenly it's a lot more effective. And you can see that there's a hot spot there. If you pay 200 DREPs out of that 100,000 ADA. So that would cost 5 ADA per DREP. And then it goes up to 5,000, which would be, I think, 50 ADA per DREP. Sorry, that'd be 25 if you're doing 200 DREPs. 50 if you're rewarding 100, and then all the way up to 1,000.
Okay, so the more you vote, the more you earn, and there is like a sweet bet somewhere.
Yeah, it's basically showing that you're getting most of the effectiveness you want out of, for these metrics at least, out of just doing 5 to 10 ADA per DREP per proposal. You're already incentivizing decentralization at that point and participation, which are the two things that I'm measuring here.
So then you're assuming that we should incentivize based on how often they vote, right?
Kind of. So the way that it works in this is if you don't vote, it passes on to the next person that does vote. So the top 100 DREPs that explicitly vote will get paid. And if you don't vote, then the next person will get paid. But it does remove the top 10, it's K in this model, from eligibility. So if you see the left-hand side of these charts, it goes from 10, 20, 30, 40, 60. That's how many you exclude from the top. So in this model, you're not rewarding the top DREPs at all, because they have influence over. They already have so much influence based on how much voting power they have. They can get through treasury withdrawals. They have other means of compensation, right? They don't need to be compensated. They've already grown to be some of the most powerful D-reps. So this is explicitly incentivizing people to be in that middle portion, the middle to top portion of you're an influential D-rep, but you're not contributing to concentration problems.
Oh, that's great. Great research.
Thanks.
I have to look into that math. Interesting. Nice.
Well, it's taking a bit longer than I thought when we are going through all of discussions, but why not? Let's have a full sweep, and then we can also have recommendation how to improve it for future iterations. Roadmap alignment aligns with Cardano roadmap. Unfortunately, I still haven't looked at the recent past vision. So has anybody read through, has kind of got into tune with what's on info action, and can tell if that recommendation, how well it's aligned? I assume it's like something that is there, but not sure. I see Jose is saying, yes, you're going the right direction, go all the way up.
Yeah, I can recall exactly the text that is on the roadmap, so I'm not chipping in on that, but I recall being somewhere around having a sustainable long-term governance, and this goes in that direction. So I'd say that it's definitely aligned.
How quickly can the benefits be realized? Years to realize, weeks. Yeah. I maybe have a radical here. To me, it's like weeks. Like, okay, you want to start new workshops, all get teams together. Next week, let's meet and let's start. But for some, we've already mentioned like leisure, 3 years, several years. So where do we meet, or somewhere in middle?
I think we had people speak to that. It's going to be probably years, right?
Then we go to one. How much uncertainty in this approach? I think we have also discussed that a bit, and I guess it's like maximum uncertainty because we don't know who gets the rewarded. We don't know where it's coming from. It's just they're all throwing a bunch of proposals currently at the omnibus style that Intersect is doing.
Yeah, but it says technical risk. What does that mean?
That is a good question. Why doesn't say that? I'm gonna save it and see if technical risk, how complex or uncertain, it doesn't stay here either. Let's see if I have one more chance in onboarding page. Prioritize.
I guess technically uncertainty is a term we can.
Yeah, it does. Okay, looks like with the recent update, I kind of lost the mathematical.
Yeah, and they're also
we kind of
Eric
come up
said,
with ourselves. Consider dependencies, integration, complexity, and unknowns. So unknowns are the politics, integration, complexities of the ledger, maybe, and dependent is Cardano itself.
So, easy 5, in my opinion.
If we go to the, if we aim to have it on the ledger, definitely a 5. If we aim to have a quick MVP, I don't think it's that complex, really. We have several models, but as I said before, I think we already have a model in place, which is not paying. So anything that improves on that is better. And if we, I see a lot of push from several groups and people just coming together on a solution. Shouldn't be that hard to get in place, this year. So I wouldn't say that it's that uncertain. I'm for sure it's not a 1, but I'd say it's kind of in the middle of the road.
4 or 3. Well, it's my vote. If you want to go lower, you have to use the application.
I would put a 3, but I can see how others can think differently.
Final metric, legal risks. Do we have concerns, or it's gonna be a problem?
I think it's a 2, so it's not risk-free. It's very low.
And this is how assessment works right now for recommendations. If you got any feedback, I created a feedback button. You can tell me anything. The best way you could, I hope, is you describe exact change you want, and then I can discuss with the agent and make any kind of updates to platform or the way we get information, add information, see information. For Steve, this won't be able to yet show you the entire Cardano, but over time, I hope that at least that what we collect here in workshops is visible, understood, and as we have like new, so many of these options now, 30 already. Yeah, thank you. I think today 10 was already added. So yeah, but we'll see if we can start combining these because I think there are going to be duplications. But for now, where do we want to go next? If I refresh this, is there anybody? Yeah, I see one person at least has gone through and prioritized more items here. Everybody is welcome to do all of this voting and then set up for the next workshop. As I understood, tomorrow there's going to be in civics maybe, or was it MCC? Somewhere the Drep incentive, or like, I don't know, it's a Drep incentive, but in general, governance incentive, yeah, work group. And then Wednesday is going to be another Beyond MVG workshop. And yeah, one more later to this week. We have a workshop button at the top there. You will see the full plan. It's not, of course, mandatory, but if you have a very specific time, you are watching from YouTube and you're like, God damn it, none of this works for me. You can come on this chat and put your dime down and you can make sure that we don't miss anybody. But yeah, for today, last 5 minutes, I think let's have a closing thoughts. Yeah, rather feedback, maybe bring up some kind of recommendations you think needs to be there, and so that when I look past the recording, I can make sure they are there. And yeah, any other closing thoughts you think about governance and the way this workshop went?
Well, I think I know that it's very easy to up rank thing also when you are prioritizing, but also take the effort to down prioritize things that you don't think is urgent. Sometimes that is actually more difficult than voting stuff up.
Yep, I see 7 up and 7 against. And yeah, today's discussion brought out 3, 4, 5, lot of quality stuff into this one recommendation. I hope we have now 2 recommendations that have been gone through in this kind of vigor. Where one was something related to SPOs. That was the workshop, last workshop. No, that was the non-workshop, just in another meeting. So because somebody in the last workshop suggested a recommendation about our explorers have this like, hey, come here, spend money and get the earn points, or like casino ads basically. And then there was a recommendation about subsidizing other SPOs or like rewards or the treasury to give them rewards so that they don't have to run those ads in order to maintain their site. So that it would be more appealing for new people who are just opening up Explorer, because it's usually quite the first thing that people look when they start like acting with tokens and they need to verify something. Did they do it correctly? They just go to Explorer and they see only ads about how to spend money, basically. But if there would be, hey, here is this cause, this SPO is working with these farmers or with these students, or like more casual thing that people actually care about, it may change the shift. So that whoever, I think that was Oliver or Jen itself, because she was here on Friday. Between that discussion, it happened. Who has not talked yet? Mark Hall, James, Ayomi, Jen, M, Maureen, do you want to share your thoughts on this workshop, challenge governance in general?
I didn't know we could upgrade or downgrade, so I'm gonna have to look at it now. So I'll reevaluate. So thanks for that.
Yeah, hey Tivo, hey everyone. Great tool, man. It's you put a lot of effort into it clearly, and it's definitely going to be helpful. There's a lot in there, so I'm going to spend a few hours before getting digging into each one. But yeah, it's a great tool. I'll add some comments and bits on here, and there's a bunch of stuff I imagine you've already talked about on previous sessions that you put in here that I'll essentially familiarize myself with. And one other question I've got, or one question is, can anyone submit these, or am I missing the submit button? Or are these come
So
from
if you're not
a
logged
control
in,
group?
maybe that's an issue. So on the right top left corner, there should be a way to log in, and you have 3 options: Google account, Cardano wallet, or travel account. And each of them will give you a session key, which then should give you access to submit stuff, except in challenges. Oh, actually, never mind. I think Rodrigo today pushed me to other side. So yeah, you can actually assess our challenges too, if you think you want to.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, I've logged in. That's great. I just couldn't see where to create a new prioritization item, or whatever we're calling them.
Ah, yeah. So these ones happen. I'm going to share screen again. Share screen. So identify page is where we write the recommendations. And middle, you have these categories. And at the end of the categories of existing stuff, you have this add recommendation button.
Okay, nice. I see. Yeah, that's great.
And then, yeah, today we worked on this list where your recommendation will go in here. And here we do the up ranking and downward ranking.
Yeah, that's nice. I've been doing some up and down voting. It'd be great to get a few more people in there, and there's only a couple at the minute. And as well, get the delegator incentives. I'd love to see some more upvotes on that, so we can have a discussion about it. Just to plug that one, but not to sway anyone. Everyone's got their own ideas.
Thank you. James?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks. Tabo, you're doing a great job facilitating. And I agree with what Steve's saying, like we need efficient ways to get the word out to people, but we also need better discourse. And I'm a believer that the biggest problem with Cardano governance is fucking Twitter. And so thanks for providing an alternative to that. Way to go. Keep it up.
Don't have fire emoji. Oh yeah, just one more plug. Ken was pushing me on AI agent. I don't know how great it's using ChatGPT, but it's infused with some of our milestone data that is probably not yet out. So give it a go, share something, and if the answer sucks, you have option to give feedback, and that feedback will then go back to the system, and I try to make it more convenient for us. So if you have questions and you don't want to bother me, bother the system itself. Let's see where it goes. Okay, thanks for joining.
But we really like that they bother you too, Table, right? But the whole point with the AI is to it's been if we manage to do this correctly, it's trained on all the Beyond viable data that is publicly available and the research paper, and you will probably get a little bit like why and how this is on the roadmap for consideration as improvement for governance.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Thank you for not leaving me here with Devo and Ken Eric. That would have been horrible.
Oh, thank you for making this happen. I think they're very valuable exercises, and definitely we'll be looking forward to the next one. Try to join. See you then. Bye.
Yeah, guys, next one is on the 22nd, guys. 2 days from now. Yeah. I will invite you all again. as usual.
Thank you, Wayne. Bye.
Yeah, thanks
Bye.
again. Sibo, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.